Alright, AP, welcome back to String Methods Round 2, along with Buttons and Inputs Round 2, where we are going to combine the two things together to make a cooler and interesting project than either of them were separately. So I know this isn't quite like the fun stuff of drawing on the screen, but like you can start to maybe imagine how you could use some of this in a more fun and creative setting. A lot of what you guys do this year is kind of learning more of the not quite back end, but some of the stuff that's making your code tick so that you guys can make more exciting, interesting projects in the future and when you're working on your own. So welcome. Please make sure that you have duplicated the starter code. So go up to File, click Duplicate, then hit Save to make sure it lives in your account forever. And then let's just take a quick peek at what this is and think about what we are going to need. So setup and draw look very boring. There's nothing exciting happening there. But if we scroll down, we see that I've left you some notes. So I've denoted a place outside of setup and draw where you're going to be writing some functions for what should happen when you click buttons. And those are going to be like your callback functions that you're using for when a certain button is pressed. I have also put a place for where you should be linking your string methods from your 1.2 work. This is like a direct copy and paste for me of what we did in the code along from 1.2 that we did together. You guys should have string methods or just other methods using strings and functions that you wrote yourself, and you're going to take some of those and put them into this document to use on your own. If you really like, which I personally like, I am just trying not to confuse us, if you really like the method where you make a new JavaScript file and you link it in your HTML and you put all your functions there so that your sketch document looks cleaner, I think that's an amazing way to work, and I think that would be even smarter than just pasting things at the bottom. It would make it look cleaner and easier to read. But since I know some of us are struggling with that a little bit, or some of us might still be a little, after learning that's a thing, I don't want to force that on us in a code along. So that's the reason behind the madness. I just lost all my words. And that is why things are set up the way they are. So you will be copying and pasting onto the very bottom of this document. You'll be typing into this section, and then we'll be adding some buttons and inputs together. So here's what I'm envisioning in this program. I want to have an input that will always take in a string, and by default, inputs take strings even if I type numbers. We can talk about recasting things in future lessons. And I want to make buttons for every big function I have so that when I click the button, it's going to run my JavaScript string method function that I wrote in 1.2 on the string in the input box. So I want to start out by just making my input box and making my button. So I am going to call my input box like str input to stand for string input, and that's really just so that it's easier for me to read. It's not just input one, like it has more of a meaning. Again, name things what you're comfortable naming them. And right away, I'm going to go ahead and make a variable for my button. You guys will see that the first function I have is change volume. So I'm going to just call this volume button because that's what it's going to control. That's it. It's a volume button. And then I'm going to jump into setup, and I'm going to do kind of everything we did in 1.3.0, where I am just going to set up my input and my volume button on the screen. So I'm going to say that str input is equal to create input. It's holding on to that new input. And inside of there, I'm just going to make a note to your string goes here so that people know what to type into it. That's for the user. Remember that users don't see your code. They don't see these lessons. They would just see this as a web page, and they would need to know what to do. So I want to try and make it nice and clear. And then just like before, I know that when I hit play, I can even test when I hit play. My string input is going to show up at the bottom of my page, and I would like it to be on my canvas just in case I wanted to decorate this later or make other things, like make it more dynamic. Let's stick it on my canvas. So I'm going to make my position, let's say 10 and 30. Please remember that you guys are welcome to pause, rewatch, do whatever you need to with this video, including stopping to mess with numbers if you'd prefer it to be in a different place. Once I have that input set, I'm going to go ahead and make my volume button a button by saying volume button equals create button, and it's going to say click to change volume of string. And then let's move that volume button dot position. Ooh, that's not how you spell position. Let's put it at 1060. Let's hit play. Oh, perfect. There it is. So right now, just like yesterday, we can test. I should be able to type here. I should be able to click the button, but nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens is because I have not made a callback function so that when I do volume button dot mouse pressed, it runs something, which is why I've entered this line as just a comment for right now. If I want to make a function, I'm going to need to go down here to make that function a reality. And this is going to be our first instance of using a function inside of a function, which is pretty cool for us. So on line 21, I'm going to write a new function called volume click. This is what should happen when the volume button is clicked. It's not going to take anything in. It's going to have those curly braces, and it's going to be pretty easy. I think that I need to know when this button is clicked because, again, I wrote this beautiful function. Let's just review this function together, actually. I wrote this beautiful function called change volume, and it takes in two things. It takes in a string, and then it takes in an option of what the user wants to do. And if the option is shout, it puts that string as all uppercase. If the option is whisper, it puts my string as all lowercase. Now, here's the interesting part, and this is where we really have to start thinking about user experience. Our string comes from the input. We type it there, that's how the user gets it to us. I want to know how they get us the option, and I think an easy way to do that would be that whenever the button is clicked, maybe they're prompted to tell me whisper or shout. So I'm going to say let choice equal prompt type whisper or shout, and I'm putting them in all uppercase because that is how they're coded in my program. Now, some things that we know is that we have learned some string methods. So if I wanted to make this even better, I could, in this program, say if option dot to uppercase and if option dot to uppercase here to make sure that if, even if they give me a lowercase word, I get it uppercase. That would be a great way to kind of like problem proof this. But I am not going to deviate to do that now. I'm going to like challenge you guys to do that as you are working through this. So right now I am just hoping a prayer that I get all capital letters for my prompt choices. And then after I get the choice from them, I just need to return the string back to them. So I think the easiest way to do that will be in an alert. And I'm going to say change volume. I want to use my string input dot value. That's going to be my first thing. So string input dot value is what's going to get plugged in for string. And then for my option, that's going to be my choice variable. So I am plugging in two variables to my change volume function. I'm going to move this over so it's a little easier to read. I have alert change volume. The whole function lives right here. The string it's getting from the input. The choice it's getting from this prompt that happens on line 22 and this is run. And that should be pretty good for me. This should be a wonderful way to use this function. Now, I just want us to note the change volume function, this is a function inside of a function. This would be considered like a sub-algorithm. It's an algorithm within an algorithm of this volume click algorithm that's already running its own steps. And I know some of us are like, quit saying algorithm, it's too many words. But just notice, like, you guys are doing really cool, complex things in your code. And it's beautiful to see that. Just acknowledge yourself that you are making things and putting them inside other things. It's abstraction on abstraction. You are amazing. So let's test and see if this works. To test this, I'm going to head back up. I'm going to comment in my volume button dot mouse pressed. And I'm going to put in volume click. Is it volume click or clicked? Volume click. I'm going to put in volume click as my callback function so that now when the volume button is clicked by the mouse, it's going to run the volume click function. The volume click function should ask for whisper or shout, and then it should run change volume and display the result as an alert. So I'm going to hit play, and I can just use your string here because that has a mix of capitals and lowercase, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write, I am so excited to teach you, which has a mix of upper and lowercase. I'm going to click change to volume of string. So far, so good. It has asked me if I want to whisper or shout. I'm going to say that I want to whisper this time. Again, hope and a prayer that I give all capital letters. You could use string methods to foolproof this a little bit more. I'm going to click OK. And look, guys, I get back in all lowercase. I am so excited to teach you. Let's test it with shout. I click it again. I type in shout. I click OK. I am so excited to teach you in all uppercase. Guys, this is so cool. So here's what y'all are going to be doing with this project. Right now we are just working in alerts. In class, we're going to talk a little bit about why that is. It mostly has to do with the background being in our draw function and the fact that the background really likes to cover things up on the screen. But y'all are going to practice just getting things to show in alerts. You're going to make 2 more buttons. So you can keep using the same string input to get your value. You don't need to make multiple input boxes unless you are really craving it. But you're going to make 2 more buttons that are going to use the 2 abstractions and functions that you guys made from 1.2. So if you are someone who did like the mild where you wrote many, just pick your favorite 2. If you did medium, pick your favorite 2. If you did spicy, there should have only been 2 that you did. You will make the buttons for those so that when you click them, it gives you answers in an alert. And keep in mind, if there's anything more than the string itself that you needed to get from the user, you might need to, in your function, write in something to get that information from them. This is like our first try at making a more complex program with kind of these little one-offs that we've made before. I'm excited to see what you guys do with it, and I know that this might be confusing, so please come to office hours if you think you need a reteach. Good luck, guys!